Papa Infidel, Ben the Looney, and viewers, the Super Mario Brothers movie was doomed to fail in its conception. And it's not because it was based off of a video game or because the writers and directors and producers barely put any time or effort into it. Although that last part is actually kind of true. No, the movie was doomed to fail because it was based off of the Super Mario Brothers video games. Now, I love the Super Mario Brothers games as much as anybody, but there was no, there was no room in any of there was no potential in any of those games to make a movie. Even the more recent stuff, there's no movie potential whatsoever, because it had no story. It was just your basic hero saves princess from bad guy scenario. Now, the movie did do a decent job of trying to turn it into this alternate dimension, dystopia, sci-fi kind of thing, but that film was so wacky and so over the top that it was destined for failure. Okay? Same thing goes for House of the Dead. The House of the Dead movie, you can't make a movie out of a game like House of the Dead, which is a game that I used to play a lot back in the day. For those of you who don't know, it was the kind of game where you would go, you'd go to the arcade, you pump in a couple of quarters, you'd pick up the gun, and you just start shooting zombies as they move on in front of you on screen, while the game just does all the moving around for you. Now, House of the Dead did have more of a story, mad scientist threatening to unleash hell on Earth, but still, no movie potential. At least I didn't see any potential for a House of the Dead film. Now, you know how when I said that when a remake is up for consideration, 9 times out of 10 it's because some power-type douchebag in Hollywood is just looking to make a buttload of dough? Well, it's the same thing with video game movies. But they're never done so that the studio can see if they can bring in a director with a creative and clever vision to adapt a very popular video game. It's always about leeching money off of moviegoers and gamers. Now, it's like the studio just decides, well, we've got the name, that's good enough. It's like, no, it's not. The game doesn't hold up itself. That's how licensed games fail. Alright? Now, granted, the problem is not just with the directors who want to bring their own vision to the source material, and the problem is not just with the egghead producers who greenlight these movies in the first place. No, the problem usually originates with the writers who want to get freaking cute. Look, I understand that, video games and movies are two completely different forms of media. I do get that. And I understand, like when you adapt an action game, you obviously can't have non-stop action with characters just running around and blowing scumbags away. You have to try to tell a story, and that's usually where the problems with the movie start. Instead of taking the story with all the characters and the plot twists and the like, the writers decide to just take the source material and craft together their own story. Obviously, they just go off and make their own thing up. Now, obviously, that doesn't do a very good job of retelling the story of the games in a film-friendly formula. No, instead it becomes just another form of fan fiction. Personally, my dream job is filmmaking. I'm not interested in making live-action fan fiction. With everything I've said, however, most of the video game movies that I've seen are not as bad as every other boob on the internet seems to think they are. I mean, there's just too much room for improvement. Like the Resident Evil movie should have been more horror-oriented than action. Instead of trying to create a film noirish spectacle with Max Payne, I think John Moore should have tried to do a film closer to the style of John Woo. A character-driven narrative with subtle undertones of honoring humanity, mixed with some great, over-the-top, Hong Kong-style action sequences, which is all the Max Payne games were in the first friggin' place. Although John Moore did do Behind Enemy Lines, which is one of the most intense action movies ever made, so why he couldn't do Max Payne like he did Behind Enemy Lines, I have no friggin' clue. Now, as far as the Silent Hill movie is concerned, I can't really say much about it because I haven't really seen the movie all the way through, just little snippets of it here and there. And same goes for Mortal Kombat, although I'm curious as to how you can have a movie that's based off of a button-mashing fighting game. Street Fighter? Well, button masher, like I said. Although, one thing about that film kind of bugs me. How did they expect to have an all-American hero character with guile, but cast Jean-Claude Van Damme in the role? That doesn't work. He has a noticeable Belgian accent, and he cannot cover it up to save his life. Okay, I mean, hell, why didn't they just cast Dolph Lundgren? He's big, he's blonde, he's a kickboxer, and when you hear his normal speaking voice, you would never guess he's Austrian. You would probably never even guess he's European. The Double Dragon movie? Well, you know how gamers tend to gripe about, why couldn't the movie be more like the game? Well, Double Dragon is a case of what happens when the studio tries to be too much like the game. Look, I understand that the Double Dragon games were side-scrolling beat-em-ups, and I do like the occasional martial arts fight sequence in a movie, but not when you have one going on every 5 or 6 freaking seconds! The Hitman movie was actually very good. I mean, I was surprised. I mean, it had more action in it than it probably should have, given the fact that the Hitman games are more stealth-oriented, and the simple, you know, child soldier concept was a bit easier for me to digest than the whole genetically engineered super assassin thing from the games. Still, it was an enjoyable film. The Doom movie was alright. At least it was alright if you want to watch it like a bad clone of the movie Aliens mixed with some stuff from the Doom games and Dwayne Johnson being way off of his game in this movie. Okay, he wasn't as off as he was in frickin' Tooth Fairy, but still, it was pretty bad. Now, the best kind of video game movie that I've seen so far is Simon West's adaptation of Tomb Raider. I mean, that film was the best kind of video game movie I've ever seen, and should be used as a model for other VGMs, but I'll talk about that movie in a later quickie review segment. Now, don't ask me to do anything from Yui Bowl, to talk about anything from Yui Bowl, because I'll save my own personal Too Much BS segment for that prick. Trust me on this. I mean, one last one I want to talk about is the Resident Evil movies. At least the Paul Anderson ones, not the Capcom CG ones that are built up for the games. I'll be honest with you guys, the primary reason that I really even have the first 3 Resident Evil movies in my DVD collection is because my mom likes them. I mean, okay, they're alright as far as movies go. I don't mind detaching the source material so that for the entire duration of the movie, just so I can enjoy it. But Paul Anderson needs to stop. Because all he's really doing at this point is just continuing that freak-ass storyline around this character Alice while finding new excuses to steal characters, creatures, and sequences from the games. Unfortunately, the reason so many gamers piss and moan about these movies is because when they hear about the movie being put in production, they either get their hopes up too high, like, oh, maybe Hollywood will get it right this time, or they set their standards too low, like, Marky Mark is Max Payne, Meg Griffin is Mona Sachs, this movie already sucks, derp. And it's like, I got an idea, gamers. Shut up! Okay? Nobody wants to hear your butthurt opinion. I mean, you know how, like, when you'd go and see a Harry Potter movie or a Lord of the Rings movie or more recently a movie on The Hobbit, and you'd always get that 1 or 2 pencil-neck geeks in the back of the theater griping about it, like, the book was better! And it's like, it's just as bad, if not worse, with gamers. I mean, hey, when I go into a theater, I don't really care about how this movie stacks up against the Resident Evil games. I just want to see if the movie can hold up on its own. Now, I would like to take this time to let you guys know I have a new segment coming up on my channel. It's called How I Would Do It. Now, this will be a segment where I look at a video game-based movie or a video game that has yet to be adapted into a movie and explain how, if I were the guy writing and directing the movie, how I would basically do it. Because I always laugh when somebody's like, the movie sucks, and it's like, I gotta ask them, well, can you do any better? And because if you can't, then please do us all a favor and quit your bitching. And I'm probably gonna get, some long derpy comments and rant comments. And actually, I got a feeling I'm gonna get a buttload of derpy rants in the comment section once this video's been up for a couple of hours, but let's see. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my new segment, How I Would Do It.